One thing about me is that I love to bake. There's always some form of baked goods on my countertops, but whenever I was younger and I would ask my dad if he'd like some, my mom would always say to me, "He shouldn't have that. He has high cholesterol." Cholesterol is a waxy substance found in our cells and produced in the liver. They are carried through the bloodstream as spherical particles called lipoproteins, and there are two types. There are high-density lipoproteins, or HDL, and low-density lipoproteins, LDL, HDL being associated with good and LDL with bad. This is because of LDL cholesterol's tendency to build up in the walls of our arteries, which makes them hard and narrow. We need cholesterol to build up healthy cells, but the disorder affects the way our body processes cholesterol. You can have it genetically or not genetically. I'll be focusing on the genetic way, and the official term is familial hypercholesterolemia, or FH. FH can be caused by multiple genes, but the most common one is the LDLR gene, which is found on the 19th chromosome. LDLR stands for low-density lipoprotein receptor, and it's responsible for clearing LDL cholesterol in the bloodstream. Research has found that there are up to 1,066 gene mutations or rearrangements in the FH variant of this gene. As for epigenetic impacts, it is theorized that DNA methylation may regulate the levels of LDL cholesterol, specifically epigenetic modification of an ABCG1 gene, which catalyzes the release of cholesterol and may impact the regulation of blood lipid levels, but this isn't certain nor researched enough in the studies of genetic high cholesterol. Since my dad has high cholesterol, there is a likelihood that I have it, so I've been flagged for this disorder. To mention, the only way you can know for sure if you have it is if you get a blood test, and from my previous blood tests, I found that I don't have high cholesterol. But my sister does, and my dad does, and my uncle does, and one of my aunts, and my grandfather, and celebrities like Howie Mandel and Bill Clinton, but we're not related. That is to say, though, that the disorder is extremely common. About 1 in every 250 people have it. So with this, what is the inheritance pattern? FH resulting from mutations in the LDLR gene have an autosomal dominant pattern of inheritance. Affected people typically inherit one altered copy of the gene from an affected parent and one normal copy of the gene from the other parent. Rarely, a person with FH has a mutation in both copies of the LDLR gene. This occurs when both parents have FH, and each passes on one altered copy of the gene. This is interesting to me because the presence of two mutations results in a more severe form of FH that usually appears in childhood. Assuming that all of my affected family members have the less severe heterozygous dominant form of the disease, these are the genotypes of my close and distant family members. Since I don't have high cholesterol as of right now, I can't speak on the impacts and implications, so I spoke to my dad and my sister, and here's the information I gathered from them. There aren't many clear symptoms of high cholesterol, meaning it can go relatively unnoticed without testing. But a severe and very common implication of this is coronary artery disease, or heart disease, which does have symptoms like chest pains and shortness of breath. A very common suggestion that doctors will make for their heterozygous dominant affected patients is to live a healthier lifestyle, including exercising more and eating healthier, which can help reduce cholesterol levels by 20 to 30%. But my dad said that if these goals aren't met, a doctor might suggest that you start taking statins, which help to block the substance the liver needs to make cholesterol. Often for homozygous patients, lifestyle changes are not enough to lower cholesterol levels, and in fact, gene therapy trials have been successful in doing this for these patients. One example of gene therapy for FH is through the liver, due to its large mass, ability to synthesize protein, and its central position in metabolism. Two methods are available for gene delivery. There is ex vivo gene transfer, where cells are isolated from the patient, or genetic modification occurs through in vitro, where cells are genetically modified and reimplanted into the organ. This method has caused only low-level expression of the LDLR gene. The second option is in vivo, where a gene transfer vector is injected into the bloodstream through a method of targeted delivery. In this method, FH has been observed to have fully reversed. These procedures are doable, but the issue with them is that they are quite invasive in either method. Also, once less ethical because they were tested on animal models, because they had mutations and natural deletions in their own LDLR genes. To summarize, genetic high cholesterol is a mostly autosomal dominant disorder caused by the low-density lipoprotein receptor gene, and the heterozygous form is less severe than the homozygous dominant form. Having this disorder implies the likelihood of LDL cholesterol building up in your arteries and potentially causing heart disease. Everyday treatments that help the severity of the disorder are a healthier lifestyle and medications like statins, and research in gene therapy for FH is aimed at finding a less invasive but effective way of controlling the mutations in the LDLR gene.